This webinar is about selecting an architecture program. There is an ideal match for everyone, and our goal is to help you find that match. Topics we will cover will include a discussion of the different kinds of degrees based on what your personal and professional goals might be. We will also help you to consider location, a school's financial aspects and support opportunities, a school's philosophy, relation to other disciplines, and its technological outlook may also be important things you should consider. Together, this will give a better idea for what to look for in a school, its facility, faculty, and who your future classmates might be. Stay tuned at the end of the presentation. We will be answering questions that you can type in while we're speaking. Let's introduce ourselves. 3 NJIT faculty and administrators will be speaking in this webinar. I'm Katia Passerini. I'm the Dean of the Albert Dormans Honors College.
Hi, I'm John Case. I'm the Associate Dean for Academics at the College of Architecture and Design.
And I'm Tony Schumann. I'm an ACSA Distinguished Professor at the College of Architecture and Design.
So first, you want to find out whether the program you're applying to offers professional or pre-professional degrees. The professional degree at the undergraduate level is called the Bachelor's of Architecture, or the B-Arch. The B-Arch is an accredited degree that typically takes 5 years of full-time study. The B-Arch degree qualifies you to take the Architectural Registration Exam, or ARE. Before taking the exam, you will need to enroll in an internship program. This usually takes about 3 years, but you can do much of your internship while still in school. A 4-year major in architecture is considered a pre-professional degree and requires you to later receive a Master of Architecture, or MArch, in order to become a licensed architect. The master's track also requires an internship. Some schools offer an undergraduate pre-professional degree specifically designed to be followed by a master's degree at the same institution. These programs are typically 6 years in total and commonly referred to as the 4+2 program. The last 2 years of this program at the master's level constitutes the accredited portion. It's a good idea to fully understand the accreditation status of a program before you apply. Architecture degrees can be complicated, so try to find out as much as you can before you apply, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Second, you must spend some time thinking about both your professional and personal goals. If you've always wanted to be an architect, the B-Arch might be the fastest way for you to get your license. But if you're interested in design, but not sure of what aspect, that's okay too. If that's the case, you might consider a B-Arch program that offers the opportunity to transfer into other programs at the same school after 1 or 2 years, such as interiors or planning. You might also consider a pre-professional program or major in architecture or another design-related discipline. This course of study will provide you with a broad liberal arts education to prepare you to later study architecture at the master's level in order to get your license.
On the personal side, you might want to think about the best setting you learn in. This might be at a large public university or a small private college. A large school might offer a great diversity of different programs and studio offerings, while a smaller school might specialize in 1 or 2 things, such as sustainability or community service. Whether those schools are in a city or a small town might also matter to you. An urban university can offer better access to internships, and while a school in a small town might offer a quality of life more suited to you. Some of you may want to find out more about a school's religious or military affiliation.
This is where finances come into play. Public universities are designed to be affordable, especially if you live in a state the university is in. Many public universities publish their return on investment to put the cost in context. You might want to consider looking at those. Urban schools might have a higher cost of living, but schools in a small town might compel you to bring a car. You should find out what kind of teaching assistantships a school offers and what sorts of scholarships, loans, and grants you can apply for. You might also want to ask if there is an honors college or program and find out what the qualifications for entry to that program are.
Most important, you want to find out what the program's philosophy is. What's its specialty? What does it emphasize? Some schools, especially bigger ones, might have more than one specialty. Try to find out what a school is known for and see if that appeals to you. You can start by going to a school's website. Most schools have videos or galleries showing student work. These give you a flavor of what the institution is all about. Don't forget to read the school's mission statement or message from the dean or chair. Also, look at a school's catalog and read some of the course descriptions. This is where you'll find out what a school's real focus is. Most schools with a graduate program allow undergraduates to take graduate courses once you reach a certain level, so don't forget to look at master's level courses. Here are some other questions you might ask. Does the school provide opportunities to design and build something? Are there connections with local communities where you can apply your design skills while still in school? Does the school have a co-op or internship program? Is there a program for study abroad? If so, where and for how long? Understanding each of these opportunities gives you a better idea of what a school's philosophy is.
In the end, architecture is a profession. The school you choose will prepare you. Each school balances the technical and the artistic in different ways. The community of disciplines that an architecture program surrounds itself with tells you a great deal about it. You might want to ask, what is the school's connection to engineering or construction? Are there interior design and industrial design programs that share faculty, and can you take one of those courses? Are there other programs such as theater or fashion that you want to take courses in? If those courses are part of a nearby sister school, how easy is it to enroll? Can you double major? To a lesser degree, schools allow you to customize your degree. It's a good idea to find out what your options are before applying if that's important to you.
Today, the word technical involves computing in an ever-increasing degree. Find out how the school you are considering teaches digital media. Will you have to rely on your laptop? Will you have a powerful computer at your desk with access to all the software you need? Or will you have to find one to use in a lab? Does the school just teach you to produce elaborate renderings, or does it also focus on data analysis? What kinds of software are available? Building information modeling, often referred to as BIM, is increasingly becoming a necessary software in the profession. Based on how and where you want to practice, you may want to find out about a school's attitude toward BIM. Computing and the Internet are increasingly affecting many aspects of our lives. How a school teaches an awareness of digital tools may significantly impact your future.
Find out who will be teaching you. The benefit of a large school in an urban area is that it draws working professionals from a wide range of design backgrounds. These might be adjunct instructors who come in to teach one course or studio. These professionals always bring the very latest practice approaches, and they might expose you to the widest range of ideas. A college far from a large city might have a higher ratio of tenure professors, who each have specific design or research interests. See if you might have the opportunity to study with them and possibly intern with them. Some of these schools might fly in faculty for a short but intensive bursts of activities. These individuals who will teach you in college can have a significant impact on your future. It helps to get an idea of who they might be now.
Architects are shapers and custodians of the physical environment. We strongly recommend visiting the school you want to apply to. Spend some time in the facilities. Walk through the studios. Try to sit in on a final review. See what the review spaces and lecture halls are like. Is there a gallery? What kind of exhibits does it show? Also, visit the library. Take note if it is in the school or across campus. Look at what kind of shop facilities there are. Schools increasingly provide more digital tools like laser cutters and 3D printers. Ask about their availability and if there is a cost associated with using them. Some architectural schools have relationships with other colleges or university departments and their research centers and laboratories. Ask about how accessible those might be to you. An architecture school is going to be your home away from home for quite some time. think about whether it's a good fit.
And in that school, you will probably be spending most of your time in studio. So spend some time there now, and try to make it while the school is in session. Things you might look for are the quality of the space itself. Here are some things to look for. Is each studio class in a single room, or are they all in a huge loft space? How much space will you have allocated to you? Is there a secure place to keep your computer? Will you have enough space to build a large model? How accessible are printing facilities, the shops, and libraries? You're going to be spending a great deal of time in studio. Ask yourself if that's where you will want to be.
And when you do visit the school and its studios, try to talk to as many students as you can. It's often said that you learn as much from your classmates as you do from your professors, so if students will be your future teachers, try to meet some of them when you visit. Get an idea about how large the student population is and how diverse they are. Before or after you go, visit that school's Facebook page to find out what's going on and what people are talking about. Many schools have student organizations like AIAS, the student chapter of the American Institute of Architects. AIS chapters do lots of things, like organize lectures, give computer tutorials, and lead field trips. Try to find out about other organizations like Alpha Rho Chi or Tau Sigma Delta. These are honor societies, and some are residential, with social bonds that often last long after you graduate. Ask students where they live. Do they commute? Do they live in dorms or off campus? Find out if the community might be right for you. Try to establish contact with some students when you visit and chat with them later online. And when you do visit, don't forget to speak with us, the faculty.
We hope this webinar has been helpful. A lot of what we've spoken about here you can find on the ACSA website. Write down this URL or just Google ACSA and select a school. Thanks for listening, and now we will answer some of the questions you have sent in.
Welcome everyone. We are going to now move to the live Q&A session, taking questions from the audience. Please continue to type them in the Q&A window. The first question that we have here is, what is the major difference between the B of ARC and the M of ARC other than years? And I'm going to assign this question to John.
Hi, this is John Kays. Again, I'm the Associate Dean for Academics at the College of Architecture and Design at NJIT. To answer your question, there is no appreciable difference with respect to the professional licensure. Those are, with respect to the licensure, they're basically equal degrees. They both will allow you to become an architect to the same degree. Although I think probably at the graduate level you have a slightly different kind of experience because you really have a class that is comprised of a lot of different kinds of people. Some people who studied architecture at the undergraduate level, and others who may have majored in very different kinds of things like literature or mathematics or could be one of the other sciences or something completely different. So the kind of education you might receive at the master's level could be qualitatively different, primarily based on the complexion of the class.
Thank you, John. I see a lot of questions coming in, so let's move to the second one. Is architecture heavily math-oriented? This is for Tony.
Hi, this is Tony Schumann. I'm an ACSA Distinguished Professor at the College of Architecture and Design at NJIT. There's no question that there's a good deal of math and mathematical principles involved in architecture, ranging from geometry and proportion on the one hand to understanding of physical properties and some calculations with respect to building systems, and particularly with today's concerns with environmental control. That said, and you will also, in pretty much any school of architecture, be studying calculus and physics as a background to some of the technical courses, because there is a technical component in the architecture curriculum. That said, you don't have to worry about, do I need to be a math major or a math whiz to study architecture? The schools and the colleges in which they're set will make sure that you have the basic grounding that you need. If you're a whiz at math, then you may gravitate toward the technical side of architecture, but if math is not your strength, there's still plenty of ways to succeed in this field as a designer or in one of many other roles that architects play.
Great. The next question is, what are the advantages of one type of degree versus another? And Tony, that's for you.
Well, as John explained, in terms of licensing, both degrees are, if they're accredited programs, they will give you the credentials that you need in order to become a licensed architect. Obviously, one advantage of the 5-year undergraduate degree is that you complete it faster. You complete it as an undergraduate. It's probably a little less expensive, both in terms of tuition. The advantage of a master's degree is that you would have an undergraduate preparation, presumably in maybe architecture or a related field, and you have a bit more of a general education. And when you do the BArch, the MArch, the master's level, the coursework will be entirely focused on architecture. The third kind of degree, which is the 4+2, where you have an undergraduate major and then go on to study architecture, there are really a couple of options there, and that is that what's the context for the 4-year program? Is it in a school of architecture, or is it an architecture major at a school which maybe doesn't have an accredited program in architecture? So I think it varies with the amount of time, with the amount of financial liability. I mean, there are some that value particularly the maturity that comes with extra years in school, but that's not always the best option for people.
Great. The next question is for John. Which is more important in applying to architecture? School, grades, test scores, or portfolio?
Well, I think that will depend a lot on the specific kind of admissions requirements from each school that you're looking at. Some schools will have a portfolio requirement that is very heavily weighted, and some will be mostly looking at test scores. There are some schools that don't require any portfolios, and then there are some schools that have both. So they might weigh test scores, grades on the academic side, and then also the portfolio component. So it's important to speak to the admissions office of each school that you're applying to, and gauge exactly what they put the most stock in with respect to your evaluation. But I think maybe a rule of thumb is when putting a portfolio together, really make sure it reflects what you love to do, what it is that you find compelling, what kinds of work that you'd like to show, whether that's drawing, or could even be a kind of weighted more toward writing or even performance. Most of the people that are on this call are applying to or looking at undergraduate schools, so nobody's expecting that you're going to have professional grade work all prepared for getting into school. So whatever you do, put your best work in your portfolio, whatever you deem that to be, and also do keep those grades up and try to do as well as you can on SAT scores, because that's one of the things that admissions offices in many schools look for.
Thank you. The next question is, I'm going to answer it because it's which country is the best for studying architecture. So I'm Italian, I'm going to say Italy. But seriously, I'm going to pass this to Tony. Tony, which country is the best to study architecture in?
You know, without knowing in detail the nature of the architecture programs in those countries, it's impossible to answer. I would say it probably has more to do with what countries you anticipate practicing architecture in after you graduate. I think for the most part there are elements of architecture that are going to be the same everywhere, so the country you study in may have more to do with factors that go beyond the curriculum, and it may have to do with family, or it may have to do with history, your interest in traveling, your interest in being somewhere else. But I certainly couldn't state with any authority which country has the best architecture schools.
Fair enough. The next question is, what can be included in a portfolio? And Tony, this is still for you.
Sure. If a school requires a portfolio, the first thing is to ask what are they looking for. They will probably tell you what they want, and they'll also tell you the format, specifically whether they want a digital submission on a DVD or some other digital form, or whether they want an actually printed portfolio where they can look at drawings. They will also tell you generally what they're looking for in a portfolio. From my own experience, of course, many high school students really don't have an architecture program, and sometimes those architecture programs are focused on digital drafting. Architecture schools are less interested in seeing whether you can produce CAD drawings, because that is easily and quickly taught in the first year. So what they're looking for generally is some evidence of a creative spark. If you have done architectural design or built models, that's obviously very important. If you draw or make sculptures, that's also something very obvious. But you may have other skills. It may be photography, or it may be a completely different realm. It may be that you write poems. It may be that you had a wonderful science project in your county science fair. Or it might be, especially if it's a digital submission, that you're a musician. All of these things give insight into who you are as a person, and why a school says, well, this person has a creative spark, and they might be a good mix in our program.
Great. The next question is for John. How can I prepare for architecture while I'm in high school?
I think what Tony just was describing and what goes into a portfolio has a lot to do with the answer to this question. Your experiences in high school should be varied. Some students come to me and they ask me, should I take drafting in high school? There's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I think that there are many things that you can focus on that would be actually more valuable, and that is to really focus on your academics, all the traditional courses in a high school curriculum like science, math, but also literature, English, writing. All these modes of expression and communication are really important in the education of an architect. So studying at the college level, I think will be predicated on what you know from high school. So I think if you are looking at what classes to take in high school, go for a broad range of things. I sometimes will tell somebody who asks me the question about the CAD course, if that's the most important thing for them to study. I say, well, if you really want to know what my opinion is, I think you should really study literature. You should know about people. You should read the newspaper. You should understand what's going on in the world, because the people you're going to be designing for have needs and wants and hopes and dreams. So you do need to understand what that is all about, and you need to understand where they're coming from. And the best way to find out about that is by reading. So read widely and have a wide variety of experiences in high school.
Thank you, John. I have another question for you. Is once you get accepted to an architecture program, do you need to reapply after your first year, or are you automatically admitted for the entire degree? And since this is about application, if you can chime in on the online submission like Lightroom.
Okay, well, to prepare to apply to a school, you should really do your homework, and you should find out exactly what they require, what they require you to get in, and what they require you to do to stay. There are some schools who will accept you for the entire time, and then there are some schools that want you to go through the first year. They'll accept pretty much everybody, and then you'll have to reapply, or there might be a gate in order to stay in the program. So find out from your school which model they use. And then to Katya's follow-up, when you are applying, there might be specific kinds of ways that you can apply, either through the Common App, application, which might also be a good way to submit a portfolio, say through Slide Room, which is an add-on to the Common App. So you can first do your homework and then find out exactly how to apply. And I think most schools will accept you for the full degree, but then again, there may be some with a gate. So ask them the question straightforwardly.
Thank you. We have an interesting question about location. Does the location of the college or university affect what is being put there? For example, does a college in a place with a lot of earthquakes focus more on tectonics? Sorry, this is for Tony.
That's a great question, and the focus of your question is more on, perhaps more on the technical there. And the answer to that is, for example, seismic design, the ability of buildings to withstand earthquakes and tremors, etc., is taught in all schools of architecture. But there was a long time, until fairly recently, where that was more emphasized in areas like California, where it's a bigger part of the licensing exam because the likelihood, the reality of earthquakes is much more present. There are also schools in warmer climates that may be focused on that, or conversely in colder climates that are particularly concerned with how you respond environmentally to local conditions. There are also differences based on, are you in a rural area? Are you in an urban area? So rural areas may have special programs dealing with small town or farm worker questions. In urban areas, there are different sets of social issues and working at different densities. So yes, it does make a difference. I mean, sometimes schools are very much devoted as part of their mission to working in the city or the region of the country they're in. Having said that, I mean, all schools are going to give you a broad exposure one way or the other, so that if schools are in a remote area, they're going to figure out ways to get you to more dense urban areas, so that's part of your experience, whether that's through a co-op program or through student travel, etc. So it's a great question, and it's something to ask about at the school and read very carefully their catalogs to see to what extent do they peg their mission and their philosophy to their location.
Thank you very much. There is a very good question, and it's probably the last question for our live chat because we're about to close. But we can continue this conversation in the live booth. But this question is very important because it's about job trends. Is there a noticeable trend for success in the job market for B of Arch students in the 5-year programs compared to BA students in the 4-year programs? John, I'm going to ask you to address this last question.
Okay. Well, I would look at it in terms of what the skill sets that you have. With respect to professional job opportunities, the different firms have different requirements, and I think one of the things that a lot of schools are a lot of offices are looking for now are people who are skilled in something called BIM. We mentioned it in the webinar. Building information modeling it seems to be the future in this profession, and whether it is a 4-year or a 5-year program, I think with respect to success in the job market, a lot of it will have to do with your skill set, especially straight out of school. And then the other question is, how much of these other things do you know about with respect to building systems as well as design? Are you a great designer? So your portfolio will speak volumes to a potential employer, but so will your ability to interface with the industry in broader terms. So I would say that it's not necessarily an issue of 4 or 5 year, but you do want to check out to see exactly what the curriculum is and what kinds of things you're going to be learning. And look at the student work and ask each individual school what their stats are.
Thank you very much. I see that we have arrived to our conclusion, 1 o'clock. If anyone has more questions, I see many lined up, we can continue this conversation in the chat room here or in the NJIT booth online, and you will be able to continue to chat with John and other NJIT representatives. Thank you very much for being with us today.